Yeah. Okay, yeah. And first thing is minutes, approval of minutes, June 1st. Selectmen's meeting, Priscilla makes a motion to approve. I'll second. Any discussion? John does a great job. Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Unanimous. Communications, are there any? Don't hear any. Let's see, yeah, there are quite a few things on the agenda, so we'll cover most things under that. Next addition to the agenda, Houstonic River Commission. Priscilla makes a motion to add the Houstonic River Commission report by Mr. Hart. I'll second that. Any discussion to adding that to the agenda? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. And I
Thank
think we do have Mr. Hart on board tonight. Welcome, Phil.
Thank you very much.
It's good to see you. Unfortunately, we're going a little blind here, so we're not, I can guess what's up. I did talk to Mr. Selectman Colley earlier in the week, but we haven't heard anything directly from the River Commission. So give us a pitch. What's up with the River Commission, Phil?
Wait, Phil, you're muted.
So we'll take that right to the top of the agenda. So Phil, you're ready? If you're ready to go, we're ready.
I am ready, right. We were advised by our coordinating committee. I think some of you people know that our coordinating committee, which is a group which operates within the River Commission, consists of a representative from HVA, Mike Jastrzemski, somebody from COG, Jocelyn, National Park Service, Liz Lacey, somebody from the River Commission, and somebody from DEEP, which is Mike Humphreys from the Fisheries. And they had advised us, they've been advising us on wild and scenic, and they advised us that the route we had chosen to become wild and scenic, which was through the state, and then the state would make the recommendation to the federal government. Wild and scenic is always a federal designation, no matter whether it goes through the state or goes through the federal government. And they had advised us that the state was waffling a little bit on going through with this because of the implications for the state would be somewhat monetary and somewhat it would have to do with monitoring problems on the river and just providing some enforcement. So they had recommended that we simply go and change our process to go straight to our congressional delegation and have them make the recommendation to the federal government for a federal wild and scenic status on the Housatonic River. And so the gist of all of this is that the stretch of the Housatonic River, which was designated wild and scenic by the Connecticut State Legislature, that legislation was passed with the support of all the towns on the HRC, including the town of Cornwall. In other words, you were in agreement with this and signed something to that effect. The original plan was to seek federal recognition of this stretch of the river. That process was begun under the last presidential administration. It's come to the attention of the HRC that significant federal funding would be made available if this stretch of the river were to be recognized as wild and scenic through congressional action instead of simply through state action. There is no regulatory difference between federal and state statutes between this stretch of the river being designated wild and scenic via the state route or the federal route. To this end, I'm requesting on behalf of HRC the support of the town of Cornwall for congressional designation of this stretch of the river under the Wild and Scenic Act of 1968. And enclosed, which was sent, I think, by email, was a suggested form for the support letter. It's a short letter in which each one of the select people actually are in agreement and sign it, the same you did when we were on the other process. If there are any questions, I could simplify that maybe. But what we're asking for is you people to sign off on this change in the way we go about getting the designation so we can move it forward. And our congressional designation they are in agreement, be Johanna Hayes and Blumenthal and Chris Murphy, et cetera. And it would be their responsibility to carry it through. instead of the governor.
What's your timeline, Phil?
Well, we're trying to get the selectmen signatures done. We wanted to get it done by the end of June,
Okay,
and that might be somewhat difficult, but I think the feeling is the sooner the better, partly because we don't meet next month.
right. So then, a little hard for us to sign a piece of paper we haven't seen.
Well,
Procedurally,
my
but-
understanding is that Bart emailed this over. I can have this emailed over tomorrow, so you can see the form. It's a single paragraph in which you agree that you will support this change in the process.
Can you read us the letter?
I can read it to you. I can even
Read
show
us
you.
the paragraph. Read us the paragraph.
The town, this says, what this would say, the town of Cornwall's Board of Selectmen unanimously and enthusiastically support the inclusion by Congress of the 41-mile reach of the Housatonic River, Connecticut Mass State line to Boardman Bridge into Milford in the Wild and Scenic River System as a partnership river. We encourage our congressional delegation to sponsor this legislation and move it forward so that our Housatonic River will have the protections and resources to ensure that we can locally manage the expectations and challenges of the future. Now, one of the benefits of this is that when the federal process is complete and we become wild and scenic, there will be a financial benefit. There'll be actually a monetary amount of money which comes to the river. We need some of that money because right now we have problems that did not exist several years ago. We have problems with enforcement. We have problems with rules. We have problems with crowds. And it's very clear we're going to need something different than we've had in the past to run the Housatonic River the way we want it to be done. So there will be a financial benefit by going through the federal government. Farmington River already has this, and they rely on it pretty heavily.
So I would make a motion then that we, as a board, endorse this paragraph. Is there a second for discussion, Priscilla?
Second,
Yes.
Phil, it's almost something in writing. Gordon can organize that we all sign it.
Okay.
Right. Yeah, I think it's pretty straightforward. And as Phil mentioned, the board in days gone by, which I can't remember when, but at some point we have already endorsed this concept.
You have.
And so this is just changing it from the state legislature to the federal arena, because the state is adjourned and I don't think they're going back until January, February or sometime. So I could see that advantage of trying to get it done. I think also this advantage to the town, sort of positioning itself in the post-COVID world as being a sort of gateway to outdoor recreation in Northwest Corner, having some new businesses open up. It's great to see the campgrounds, Housatonic Meadows being used more frequently. It's great to see HVA provide us with some interns to do river stewardship. And again, to see people using the Appalachian Trail and the state parks and all that good stuff that we like to share with people.
And by the
So,
way, Gordon, the state itself was promoting this avenue because of the financial aspects of it, with the money which would come from the federal government.
the federal government prints more money than the state of Connecticut. I guess that what they're saying.
Very definitely. So
So, yeah,
I
whatever.
can bring a copy of the letter into the office tomorrow.
Right. If you can do that, Phil, then
I will.
Priscilla and Maureen and I can come down and sign it. And I think, again, we appreciate.
Salisbury and Sharon have already signed theirs. We're
Yeah.
set.
All right.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
All right. We haven't voted yet. How do you know what we're going to do? I think you can guess. All right. Anyway, we're thankful for your efforts to protect and promote the river. And anyway, and we will, well, I think we understand the concept and I have no problem, even though normally we like to get the paperwork ahead of time. We get it. We understand it. And we appreciate you coming tonight. So Any more discussion, Priscilla? What do you think?
No, it's a great idea.
All
Definitely.
good. All good.
Thank you, Priscilla.
Yeah, it's great to see people using the rivers safely as possible, all that good stuff. Okay, so anyway, so all those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, no one opposed, so it is unanimous. Okay, thank you, Phil. Thank you, Priscilla. Okay, next on our regular agenda is our COVID-19 coronavirus update. Our task force did meet last week. And again, we've talked about modifying some of the town procedures to try to keep handle on things, aware that the kids in the town are not vaccinated, and we want to have as many activities as possible happen this summer safely as possible. So again, we're still not letting our guard down in some ways, but we want to move things forward. And one idea we came up with, which was approved by the emergency group and by Park and Rec last night, was to have try to have some concerts on the green. We're aware that people haven't been able to get together. Jen and Heather did have a senior lunch down at the Foot Pavilion, which was very well attended, but we do need to have more opportunities for people to get together, get less isolated, less detached, welcome new and old residents in town, get people together. So we're going to do a very low key potluck music by the Cornwall's own still a homegrown band on July 9th, which is a Friday. They're also gonna have some kid games, do the July Fest and again, work on trying to get some activities. People are, again, if they're not vaccinated, are encouraged to wear, are required to wear masks. Kids are required to wear masks. There still is some COVID in the area that we're aware of. So that's sort of the news that will be publicized in the Chronicle. And again, it's a potluck picnic from 6 to 8 p.m. on Friday night, the 9th of July. Everyone's welcome to come. I think Park and Rec may have an ice cream truck there. And there will be music, very low key event. And if it's popular, we may try it again in August. So anyway, that's sort of where they're at. Again, I'm going to put out a letter this week. Food pantry is still doing a brisk business, keeping people fed as much as possible. There is some real need for specific items at the food pantry, so I'll be putting out a note about that. And again, thanks to Heather and her crew. They've transitioned now from the UCC Parish House to the day room underneath the church. They do need somebody to help lift boxes if somebody's available Monday afternoon to volunteer down at the pantry. On Mondays, right after lunch, that'd be great. And so that's it for now. But we can roll right into COVID relief funds. Barbara Herbst has been helping us understand and apply for COVID relief funds. And the regulations have come through from the state and federal government of what these funds can be used for. The town of Cornwall, as other municipalities across the country, every city, town, or village is going to receive money. But there are guidelines, there are regulations on how these are spent. And I can read the basic eligible uses are to respond to the public health emergency with respect to the coronavirus disease, COVID-19, or its negative economic impacts, including assistance to households, small businesses, nonprofits, and aid to impact industries such as tourism, travel, and hospitality. These can be used for COVID mitigation, prevention, medical expenses, behavioral health, including addiction treatment, public health, public safety employees, data design, execution of health programs, health disparity, survivor benefits. They're also looking at trying to make a positive impact on people that are struggling, including businesses and nonprofits that may have had reduced funding streams because of the economic fallout. And they're also looking at grants to housing and community development organizations and childcare and education. The school CCS is also receiving its own stream of things, but I know the Child Center has some ideas of what they might do. So at this point, I would ask all nonprofits that have had some COVID impact to contact us. We've already been contacted by a couple different organizations, including the Women's Society, who've not been able to have their rummage sale, which has impacted their ability to give out scholarships and do other good work. The Historic Society has mentioned, again, not being able to do fundraising the way they used to, and they have some projects they want to do. And of course, the food pantry, the food supply organizations have some ideas, as do the Child Center. So one thing that came up from the National League of Cities in the presentation that Barbara and I watched was the idea of appointing a committee. So it's just not the mayor or someone like the mayor handing out money, get a group together. And my thought on that was to get the group that's been really working on this from the start, which is our COVID emergency group, because we do have a cross section of emergency responders. We have Heather from social service. We have Jen from the Park and Rec. And also add to that group Barbara, because she knows the rules, and Joe Pryor, because he's head of the Board of Finance. So that's my thought, is to have that group work with me, get some ideas sifted out for the Board of Selectmen on how to spend this money. We have to report our spending by the end of September. So again, it's a good situation to be in. I know there are some unmet needs out there that you don't think about, such as the impact of not having the rummage sale on scholarships and things. And I think there are some clear projects that we could do as far as housing initiatives and some other things that have had a real impact the housing market as a result of COVID. So anyway, I think it's a good situation to be in. And so I'd make a motion that we would appoint the COVID emergency management group to work on getting proposals together with Barbara and Joe Pryor and myself to the Board of Selectmen for your consideration. So that's the motion. Is there a second, Priscilla?
Second.
Any discussion? Priscilla sits in a lot of those meetings. You know, we've been through a lot of these impacts. This money does have to be COVID impact related, and those people have been dealing with the impacts for over a year. How do you mitigate this? So again, another thing that was really interesting at the Council of Governments meeting this month was there is also, there are public health crises that are going on in some ways quietly. Don't get a lot of headlines, but we did get a good presentation from the McCall Foundation and Greenwoods Counseling, which does counseling throughout the Northwest corner, and said the opioid amount of overdoses has increased through the county this year, over last year, over the year before. So what they're going to propose is the towns put some money, a modest amount of this money, towards a countywide social service agency to directly take the opioid crisis head on. Most towns in the county, including Cornwall, did have a opioid overdose last year. So again, if this is an opportunity to try to turn the corner on that crisis, I think, again, we're looking at spreading this money out over a variety of uses. But that certainly would check one of the boxes in the guidelines. So again, nothing concrete yet, but some opportunities to do some good out of a tough situation. Any more discussion? Any thoughts, Priscilla? We'll just stay in touch. I like the idea of having a committee do it, because again, we're usually smarter working together than we are individually. So anyway, all those in favor of appointing that group as to help with this COVID funds, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Great. Next, we have bituminous asphalt bids. Jim Vanity has got a proposal to do 3 sections of Town Street, reclaiming them and resurfacing them. It's basically going Town Street north up to the dirt section. It seemed to be something he's been working on, trying to get this done with the drainage and everything else. But in his mind, this is the most appropriate area. Okay. Okay, Jim here tonight. I don't see him signing in, but it's pretty straightforward. And again, we go out to bid. We have a half dozen potential bidders that we worked with over the time. And the bids would be due first week in July, and the paving would be done by September 24th. And what we aim to do is have it done sometime in August and September. So I'd make a motion that we would go out to bid for the sections of Town Street as recommended, north of Yelping Hill Road as recommended by the highway foreman. Is there a second to that?
Second.
Second. Okay, excuse me for a minute, I let the dog in. The dog's in. Okay, great. I want to make sure it wasn't a bear. I had a bear in the garden, near the garden the other night. Exciting. Next, we have the Northwest Hills COG planning contract extension, their technical service grant task order 3. The town has been using the services of the Northwest Hills COG since 2020 to help the Planning and Zoning Commission with planning services. And this would be an extension of that. The Planning and Zoning Commission voted unanimously to request the Selectmen extend the contract for a 2-year period. And again, I think they're satisfied with the work that's been done and have quite a bit to do. So I would make a motion that we would extend that as requested by Planning and Zoning. Is there a second?
Second.
Second. Any discussion? And again, this is basically to implement the town plan and update the regulations as the Planning and Zoning requests. So again, I'm very pleased with the work that's been done to date. And again, I think we get good value from the planners and the people at the COG. So anyway, any more discussion? So that's a motion to sign this, and I'll sign that. And it's been already signed by Rick Lynn, who is retiring as executive director after many years of the COG. He's a Cornwall resident, done a great job for Cornwall. He was also head of chair of Cornwall Planning and Zoning, and we wish him well in his retirement. And anyway, this one of the last things he does is to get this agreement in place. So anyway, so all in favor?
Aye.
Great. All right, next, maple tree at Footfields. People may have observed there's a new maple tree at Footfield. We've had some damage to the spruces there that have been there for years. The Rotary Club of Salisbury, which Cornwall is part of their district, volunteered to put a maple tree down there. It's quite large. I think it's 18 feet tall, and eventually it will provide significant shade for people using Footfields. And I would like to thank them, and I will write them a letter on our behalf to thank them to do that. And the highway crew is set up a watering system to make sure the tree has plenty of water and thrives. So again, thanks to the Salisbury Rotary for volunteering their time to give us a maple tree. Cyber insurance, we've been working on that. We have a cyber security working group with Barbara Herbst and our IT person, Greg Dale, and myself. We've also been working with Kerma, who is not offering cyber insurance, but they have arranged for a insurance company named Corvus to carry on that coverage and in fact update the services provided to municipalities for insurance. So it wouldn't just be insurance in case of a cyber attack, but it would also be analyzing our systems, which are fairly modest, but doesn't mean they're perfect, and would work with us to manage our risk and make suggestions on how we can operate our systems with a minimal amount of risk to cyber attack, which, as everybody probably knows, is increasing. And again, Kerma says it's just a matter of time before most municipalities have an issue, and they recommend this group strongly. And I've circulated information about the services offered to the board. And so I'd like to make a motion to spend up to $9,000 for cyber insurance for the coming year for cyber insurance and risk management from Corvus. So is there a second to that motion? Second from Priscilla. Yeah, so anyway, I think again, we want to prevent things from happening, and we've inventoried our systems and we are set to work with them to make sure we're as safe as possible in this new area. So anyway, discussion, Priscilla, yes.
Yes, I just wanted to thank Jonathan. I asked for a copy of, and it's about 100 pages. I won't admit that I've read all 100 yet, but I've read the brief coverings, and I do think it's a good idea. But I gotta tell you, there's a lot of stuff here.
Yeah, and yeah, I appreciate again, John, coming up with that. And we are, yeah, I think it's really important we do this. Again, it's sort of like batting COVID, it's Corvus, not COVID, but you never know where it's going to pop up next, and you have to, you know, be prepared for it and take the rational steps to knock it down. We already do have our systems backed up and things, but again, we don't claim to be experts, but hopefully we will get some people who are working on it. So, and we had good cooperation with the school, and other towns in Region 1 are also going with this. So I think it'll be a good cooperative effort to get something robust in place. So any more discussion?
No.
All those in favor? Aye. Next, we have Board of Selectmen meeting format. As we, as time goes on, most municipalities are having their board meetings go back to in person. I think that makes sense. And again, I appreciate the work that John's done trying to manage not just this board, but other boards' meetings. And I know it's been quite a task, especially getting everybody the Zoom links and then getting the Zoom link again, sometimes a third time. So I think that's one of the reasons to go back to in-person meetings. Again, if you think there's something to be said for that, we're going to work out the logistics. I think the state's requiring us to have. I think the state is requiring us to have a hybrid setup through July. And again, with our setup of having public comment at the end of the meeting, I think that would be manageable. But I would hope that we'd be able to notice the meetings so the selectmen themselves will be back in the town hall, maybe in the big room, for a meeting that would be recorded. Again, if people want to make comments ahead of the meeting, they're welcome to write the board. And then we'd have public comments at the end. The meeting would be recorded, it'd be archived, broadcast, accessible. And then we would try to have it on an in-person or a remote aspect also. But again, we have to see what the regulations are, because that has changed somewhat. And I think there's time limits and time frames for hybrid, in-person and Zoom. So, but I think we will have more of an my thought is to have more of an in-person aspect to our meeting next time. What do you think, Priscilla?
I love it. I love the idea of being back in person.
Okay.
So you say town hall, let me know, I'll be there.
Great. Okay. Yeah, and I think, again, it takes some of the potential technology glitches out of the way. And we do have the ability to record, broadcast, and receive. So anyway, we will be working on that. And as a townwide thing, I'm leaving that up to each board, what they feel comfortable doing. But I think you're going to see a general move back towards the in-person direction. And I think town meetings at this point have to be in person. So again, we got to read up on those details. We don't have any town meetings scheduled at this point, but that's certainly directions we're going. And like anything else, it's good to try to get there ahead of get there ahead of the deadline. Okay, so we'll post an in-person meeting next time with some hybrid options. And again, we appreciate the people that do dial in. And I think there's a way to sort of accommodate both. And again, we're going to work on it and try to see what works, what can be worked out.
Good.
Any other thoughts on that? Anyway, Priscilla's strongly in favor, and I think we'll start out at our next meeting, moving in that direction. Okay, we have public comment before an executive session, discuss the highway union contract. Is there any public?
Gordon, I have a public comment.
Yes, Mr. Hardigan.
I don't know if you've touched this subject at one of your last meetings, but I think you're aware that there is a burgeoning population of gypsy moths. I think that there will be some impact along the town roads. We've lost a tree down at the grade school. I've talked to Bruce Bennett. I've taken some stuff off the internet. And clearly it's going to be a topic. I haven't seen much in the press about it, but you certainly will probably in the future be asked to field some questions from the town hall about what people should do. And I just think it's an issue. My wife and I have actually been going down to the grade school and just shaking them out of the small apple trees, the 12 apple. That's very possible. You put a drop cloth down, you shake it, and they all come out. But it's hard to shake an 80-foot maple tree. And whatever questions you get, I just thought I would approach the topic because clearly it is going to be an issue going into the future here. I know the town has been through it in the past.
Correct. Yes. And the good news is it's not necessarily lethal.
Right.
The bad news is it can be lethal. The trees are already stressed, and looking out the window at the dying ash trees, that's probably, again, it attacks the oaks more than the maples, but it will. I saw a totally defoliated pine tree on River Road because of that. And bicycling home from the town hall today, my tires were green going up Route 125. So we may.
Bruce said that some trees will survive 3 years of defoliation and still survive.
Yeah. So again, I think there is. From what I've been reading and what I remember was that there are natural bacteria and fungi that will eventually kill these worms, caterpillars, but a lot of it depends on the season too. If we keep on getting rain, then you're going to get a lot more fungi.
Right.
Last year it sort of spread throughout New England because it was so dry and there wasn't the fungi. This is a breed of Bacillus thuringiensis, which some of us use in our gardens. And you can buy a spray that will actually knock these things out on fruit trees. So, and I actually just got some today that I'm using on our apple trees. So there is a nat, it's fairly safe, organic alternative that will knock down. It gives
One is
Yeah.
dipel.
what?
Dipel and Thurside are both BT.
Right. And so it's it gives the caterpillars terminal indigestion. They can't digest the bacteria. So again, if I have a minute, I can maybe go down and spray those apple trees at the school, because I know apparently it does also favor apples more than it favors
Well,
peach trees.
remember, it's school ground, so we have some rules down there on the school ground, so.
Yeah. But I think
Anyway,
again,
I just thought I'd mention it.
some pretty benign things, but you can't obviously spray the entire forest.
No.
So again, anyway, thanks for bringing that up so that people know. And then sometimes the trees, if it gets early enough, they will put out a second set of leaves. But again, depends a lot on the cycle. And my other thought about getting that spray out there is maybe that helps the
Would be good.
bacteria take off. Anyway, thank you, Phil. Any other public comments?
I have a question.
Yes.
It's Carolyn Nastro.
Yes.
Question is 3 questions. Can you tell us how much the COG consultant has been paid thus far for the planning and zoning work? What the hourly rate is moving forward and what the anticipated expense is? And then the third question is, if you could just clarify, did you say that you're going to be working to continue hybrid meetings past July? Is that did I understand that correctly?
Well, we're taking it sort of one meeting at a time. We're finding out what the regulations are. And then we'll see how the hybrid meeting goes. We're planning to have some hybrid meetings in July. But again, we're going to evaluate how that all shakes out. So then COG consultant rate is $75 an hour. Currently, we are budgeting $10,000 a year for assistance to the Planning and Zoning Commission. And I believe that's about, I'm not sure that, I think they spend less than that last year. So that's about the area, and that's all that's been budgeted in the town budget. So
Thank you.
you're welcome. Any other public comments? Okay.
Joanne?
Thank you. Yes, Gordon, I would just like to urge the Board of Selectmen to consider a continuation, regardless of what the state requires, to continue the hybrid offering. I think, as you've often pointed out and other issues come up, we do have an aging population, and the availability of the hybrid Zoom meetings makes it possible for many of those people who might find it more difficult to attend an in-person meeting to participate. And I think since participation is limited to input after the discussion, it's very valuable for community members to be able to watch the interaction and hear the discussion among the board members, whether it's the Board of Selectmen or any other board. And I think that's really crucial. So I would urge the board to continue with the hybrid offering. And I hope you'll take that under consideration. Thank you.
You're welcome. Yes, and I think we've got a good balance now. So, and again, we're going to work on it, and hopefully that will continue. We like having people seeing what's going on. And just one thing, we do forward things from the office to the board all the time. So if people have a concern, they can always write us. It doesn't have to be around the meeting. So anyway, good. So anyway, we're scheduled to be in person, hybrid, all that good stuff. Next meeting, which will be, what's next meeting, John? I think it's the 6th of July, right? Yeah.
Correct.
Yes.
Great. Okay. 3 days before the picnic. So there you go. Okay. So anyway, all right. Thank you, Priscilla. Thank you, John. Thank you, everybody, for attending. And at this point, I'll make a motion to go into executive session to discuss the highway union contract. We are negotiating a 3-year contract with the Highway Union, which has 3 members. And I'm about to update the board on where we're at. So I make a motion, we go into executive session to deal with that personnel issue.
Second,
John, what do I do now to?
I think you just stop. You just, this is, the press gets,
All right, I'll stop it.
yeah, stop it, because I think the press is normally leaves the meeting if we
Yeah.
were in a meeting. So if you just stop the recording now, that's really important because we're under agreement not to publicize what we're
Okay.
talking.
Trying to figure it out. I'll go now.